Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to speak to you not just as minds seeking knowledge, but as hearts yearning for truth. Truth about one of the most misunderstood forces on earth, love. But we cannot talk about love without first separating it from its counterfeit, infatuation. You see, many enter relationships thinking they have found love, when all they've really encountered is a rush of emotion dressed in romance, but void of revelation. Let's begin with a simple but vital truth. Infatuation is attraction without understanding. Love is commitment built on knowledge. Infatuation is instant. It demands no investment. It thrives on imagination. You see someone, you feel something, and your mind starts scripting a movie where they are everything you've ever dreamed of. You haven't studied their values, their pain, their purpose, or their vision, but you're already planning forever. That is not love, that is fantasy. Love, however, is not a feeling, it is a decision rooted in truth. It is attraction that has passed through the fire of patience, prayer, and perspective. Love studies before it commits. Love listens before it speaks. Love serves before it seeks to be satisfied. Infatuation is obsessed with how you make me feel. Love is committed to who you are becoming. Now hear me clearly. Infatuation cannot survive time. The moment storms come, when beauty fades, when moods shift, when flaws surface, infatuation flees. Why? Because it was never committed to you. It was only committed to the moment. But love, real love, does not just stay through the storm, it strengthens through it. Love grows through knowledge. It asks questions. It observes, it waits, it disciplines desire because it knows that what you rush into emotionally, you may regret spiritually. Let me tell you this, love is not blind. Love sees clearly and still says, I choose you. Infatuation is blind, and when the eyes finally open, disappointment sets in. Some of us are heartbroken not because we were in love, but because we trusted an illusion. We mistook intensity for intimacy. But listen, infatuation creates chemistry, love builds character. So what is the test? Time, purpose, pressure. Time reveals truth. Purpose gives direction. Pressure exposes substance. If what you feel cannot survive waiting, if it cannot align with your calling, and if it collapses under responsibility, it is not love. It is infatuation in disguise. Let me close with this. The world does not need more romance. The world needs more revelation. Choose to love, but love with wisdom. Let understanding lead your heart. Don't let a spark make you settle. Wait for the fire that refines and remains. Infatuation is driven by emotion and happens almost instantly. It doesn't require history, understanding, or patience. Just a spark. A glance, a smile, a conversation, and suddenly the heart races, the imagination runs wild, and a person believes they've found something real. But infatuation is often based on surface-level attraction. It reacts to what is seen, not what is known. It's fueled by desire, not depth. Love, on the other hand, does not rush. It is intentional. It takes time to observe, to ask questions, to listen deeply. Love seeks understanding before it gives itself away. It looks beyond appearance and charm, beyond charisma and chemistry, and asks, is this someone I can build with, grow with, walk in purpose with? Love is not born in a moment. It is built through moments. Infatuation wants the feeling now. Love waits to understand the future. Where infatuation demands speed, love demands wisdom. Infatuation will say, I can't stop thinking about you. But love says, I've taken the time to know you, and I still choose you. That difference is everything. One is emotional impulse. The other is spiritual discernment. Infatuation thrives in the world of imagination. It creates an idealized version of a person, often ignoring reality to hold on to a fantasy. When someone is infatuated, they project their desires, dreams, and expectations onto the other person without truly knowing who that person is. They see what they want to see, not what is actually there. Infatuation creates a mental picture, not based on truth, but on wishful thinking. It fills in the blanks with assumptions instead of facts. A smile becomes a sign of destiny. A kind gesture becomes a promise of forever. But none of it is rooted in reality. Love, however, requires understanding. It takes the time to discover who the other person truly is. Beyond appearance, beyond charm, beyond first impressions, love listens. It studies character. It asks deep questions. It watches how a person responds to stress, failure, and responsibility. Love is not afraid to confront truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. It values clarity over comfort, honesty over illusion. Where infatuation is driven by what one hopes the person might be, love is grounded in who the person actually is. Love does not romanticize flaws. It acknowledges them and chooses wisely. Love is not blind. It sees clearly and still decides to commit. That's why love lasts and infatuation doesn't, because love is anchored in reality, while infatuation floats in fantasy. Infatuation is focused on personal gratification. It asks, what do I get from this? It's centered on how the other person makes you feel, excited, wanted, admired. It feeds the ego and satisfies the desire to be desired. When someone is infatuated, their attention is more on the emotional high they experience rather than the well-being or growth of the other person. The relationship becomes a mirror reflecting back one's own needs and desires. If the feeling fades, the interest disappears. It's not about giving, it's about getting. Love is the opposite. Love is selfless. It seeks the good of the other, even when it costs something. Love is willing to serve, to sacrifice, to stay, even when it's inconvenient. It's not based on constant emotional reward, but on a deep commitment to another person's growth, purpose, and peace. Love asks, what can I give to help you become all you're called to be? It is not possessive, it is protective. It does not demand attention, it offers presence. Love finds joy in seeing the other person thrive, even if that means not always getting its own way. While infatuation craves attention and affirmation, love creates space for trust and truth. One takes, the other gives. One is rooted in need, the other flows from strength. Love's selflessness is not weakness. It is the highest form of maturity. Because when you truly love someone, it's not about using them to feel complete. It's about offering your wholeness to help them become complete too. Love is not driven by mood or emotion. It is grounded in will and choice. Feelings are unpredictable. They rise and fall, shift with circumstances, and change with seasons. If love were only a feeling, it would be as unstable as the emotions that fuel it. That's why so many relationships that begin with passion eventually dissolve. Because when the excitement fades, there's nothing left holding it together. But true love doesn't depend on constant emotional highs. It is a conscious, deliberate decision to remain faithful, to care, to serve, and to stay even when the feelings aren't there. Love chooses to show up. It chooses to forgive, to communicate, to be patient. It chooses to honor the commitment made, even on the days when the heart feels distant. Love understands that feelings may waver, but character and covenant do not. It is an act of the will, not just a reaction of the heart. That's why real love can survive disappointment, endure challenges, and grow stronger through trials, because it is anchored in something deeper than emotion. To love someone is to say, even when it's hard, even when I don't feel like it, even when you're not at your best, I'm still here. That kind of love is rare, but it's also real. It doesn't abandon ship at the first sign of trouble. It doesn't withhold affection until conditions are perfect. It's not earned by performance, and it's not withdrawn when things get messy. Love remains, because love is not just what you feel, it's what you decide. Infatuation is intense but short-lived. It burns brightly in the beginning, full of excitement, anticipation, and emotional thrill. But because it's not rooted in substance, it begins to fade as time introduces reality. As days turn into weeks and weeks into months, the initial spark often dims. Small flaws become annoyances, idealized images begin to crack, and the emotional high starts to wear off. Infatuation feeds on newness and fantasy, but time exposes truth, and when the fantasy no longer holds, infatuation has nothing left to stand on. Love, on the other hand, is strengthened by time. It matures as seasons change. Where infatuation weakens with familiarity, love deepens through it. Love isn't in a hurry. It grows through shared experiences, honest conversations, moments of conflict, and seasons of sacrifice. As time passes, love gains clarity. It becomes more secure, more understanding, more resilient. It learns how to adjust, how to support, how to give without expecting in return. Time reveals what infatuation hides and confirms what love secures. Infatuation may spark the beginning, but only love can carry the weight of the long journey, because love doesn't just survive time. It uses time to become wiser, stronger, and more committed. Where infatuation collapses under the pressure of routine or difficulty, love finds meaning in the process of enduring together. It's not in the rush that love proves itself, but in the patience to keep choosing each other day after day. Infatuation resists truth because truth threatens the illusion. When someone is infatuated, they often overlook red flags, dismiss warning signs, and avoid asking hard questions. There is a desire to preserve the fantasy at all costs, because the emotional high feels too good to risk losing. Infatuation prefers assumptions over answers. It fills in gaps with imagination rather than investigation. Anything that might disrupt the perfect image of the other person is ignored or explained away. There's no real interest in depth, only in maintaining the feeling, even if it means pretending not to see what's actually there. Love, however, seeks and embraces truth. It is not afraid to look closely, to examine the heart, the habits, the history. Love wants to know, not just feel. It asks questions not to control, but to understand. Love knows that truth is not a threat, it's the foundation. It recognizes that lasting connection cannot be built on denial, but on honesty. Love is willing to face uncomfortable realities, to acknowledge flaws, and to engage in difficult conversations. It sees the whole picture, the beauty and the brokenness, and still chooses to stay and grow. While infatuation avoids truth to protect emotion, love welcomes truth to protect the relationship. Because love knows that anything real must be rooted in what is honest, not what is idealized. It doesn't run from reality, it builds within it. Truth may disrupt the fantasy, but it deepens the foundation of real love. Only when the truth is known can trust be formed, and without trust, love cannot truly exist. Love takes the time to learn. It studies the other person's character, values, patterns, and past. It asks intentional questions and listens carefully to the answers. Love observes how a person treats others, handles stress, responds to correction, and manages responsibility. It doesn't rush to conclusions. It builds slowly, layer by layer, through understanding. Love knows that real connection is not based on how someone looks or how they make you feel in the moment, but on who they truly are when no one's watching. It values depth over decoration, substance over surface. Infatuation, on the other hand, is built on assumption. It draws conclusions from limited information. A few sweet words become proof of loyalty. A few romantic gestures become evidence of character. Infatuation fills in the blanks with fantasy instead of fact. It assumes compatibility without testing it, assumes commitment without seeing consistency, and assumes depth when there's only charm. It believes it knows someone after days or weeks, not realizing that true knowledge takes time and intentional effort. Because it relies on assumption, infatuation is fragile. When reality shows up, when flaws surface, when differences emerge, when expectations aren't met, it begins to crumble. Love, because it is grounded in knowledge, remains steady. It has already done the work of learning, discerning, and accepting. Love doesn't have to guess. It knows, and what it knows it chooses. That's the difference. Love builds on what is true. Infatuation floats on what is assumed. Pressure reveals what was hidden. It strips away appearances and forces the true nature of a relationship to the surface. In times of conflict, disappointment, or hardship, the emotions that once felt so strong are tested. Infatuation, which often thrives in ease and comfort, begins to crack under stress. It doesn't know how to handle delay, failure, or unmet expectations. When pressure comes, infatuation often turns to blame, withdrawal, or abandonment because it was never prepared to endure. It was only built to enjoy. Love, however, shows its strength when tested. It may bend, but it doesn't break. It draws from a deeper source: commitment, understanding, and patience. Love sees challenges not as threats but as opportunities to grow. It stays steady under pressure because it wasn't built on feelings alone. It was built on truth, trust, and intentional choice. Love is willing to wrestle with difficulty, to stay in the process, and to work through pain rather than escape it. Pressure doesn't destroy love. It refines it. It exposes weak foundations and strengthens solid ones. It reveals whether a relationship was built on appearance or authenticity, on emotion or conviction. What cannot stand under pressure was never meant to last, but what endures through pressure is proven, purified, and prepared for something greater. Because true love isn't afraid of the storm, it grows stronger in the midst of it. Love supports and encourages the fulfillment of purpose. It understands that each person has a calling, a mission, a reason for being that goes beyond momentary pleasure or comfort. When love is present, it becomes a partnership rooted in mutual growth and vision. Love doesn't demand that the other person change their dreams or abandon their goals. Instead, it walks alongside, offering strength, encouragement, and support. It aligns with what truly matters in life, helping both individuals become the best versions of themselves. Love recognizes that true connection is found not only in feelings but in shared purpose and destiny. Infatuation, by contrast, is often a distraction. It pulls attention away from goals and priorities with its intense focus on emotions and immediate gratification. Infatuation can cloud judgment, making someone more concerned with how they feel in the moment than where they are going in the long term. It may lead to compromises, delays, or detours from personal growth and calling. Infatuation craves presence but not progress. It seeks excitement, not endurance. As a result, it often interrupts or slows down the pursuit of purpose because it is centered on self-satisfaction rather than mutual advancement. While love strengthens purpose by adding value and clarity, infatuation scatters focus and energy. Love is intentional about building a future, not just living in the now. It helps each person stay on track, pushing beyond distractions and difficulties. In the end, love is a partner in destiny. Infatuation is a temporary visitor on the journey. Infatuation burns quickly and intensely, like a firework that lights up the sky but disappears in moments. It ignites passion and excitement, often catching people by surprise with its sudden heat. However, because it is fueled by emotion alone and lacks a strong foundation, it quickly consumes itself and burns out. Infatuation dazzles but doesn't sustain. Once the initial spark fades, there is often nothing left but ashes, disappointment, confusion, and unmet expectations. Love, in contrast, is like a steady flame that burns over a lifetime. It may not flare up with the same intensity every day, but it provides constant warmth and light. Love is nurtured through care, commitment, and consistency. It is maintained by intentional actions, patience, forgiveness, sacrifice, and it endures seasons of change and challenge. This flame is not easily extinguished because it draws strength from deep roots, trust, respect, and shared purpose. While infatuation is fleeting, love is enduring. The temporary fire of infatuation can give false hope, but the lifelong flame of love offers true security. Love's flame warms through storms and calm alike, never flickering out when tended with care. It is this lasting flame that builds families, creates legacies, and fulfills the deepest longings of the heart. In love, you find not just heat, but light that guides you through every season of life.